Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Civivi Odium. I did already review the prototype of this. There are almost zero changes as far as I can tell. I went back and watched my own video. I can't really see any differences. So I'm not going to go super in depth with it. I'm just going to link to that video down below. But I'm also going to do a little comparison to the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop, which is very, very, very similar and made by the same company. If you don't know, the Archbishop is made by which owns Civivi, so potato, potato. All right, let's get going. Yeah, this is clearly a Ferrum Forge design. It is a very small knife, but it's a pretty nice one. I like the Mini Archbishop as well. It's just kind of another cool, typical Ferrum Forge design. This one is D2 steel. We'll get into more about that with the Mini Archbishop is 9CR and which one you want, but this one is D2 steel. And you are looking at a price of $52.70 for these, so not badly priced at all. They are a little cheaper than what the Ferrum Forge version is. Version, I say, but they are slightly different. Has very nice contour G10 scales. It comes in a whole bunch of different colors. This is the black with the stonewash blade. You can also get black with a black blade. You can get, I'm not going to get all these jade. I think there's a green, there's orange, there's a gray, there's all kinds of them. I think there's like 6 different variations of it. So, you can choose to your heart's content, and they are available a lot of places I just looked at. So, which sometimes with Civivis, they sell out very, very fast. Liners sit a bit proud, but I think it's a pretty good overall look. Deep carry pocket clip, the typical Civivi pocket clip, which again, we'll talk about more when we get to the Ferrum Forge comparison. But, you know, mostly kind of typical Civivi, really good quality, especially for the price. And again, it's not a very large knife, which brings us to specs and size comparisons. We have an overall length of just 6.2 inches, blade length of 2.6 inches, blade thickness pretty thin, 0.12 inches, and a handle thickness also pretty thin, 0.43 inches, and a weight of 2.5 ounces. Size comparisons, we'll do our usuals, but the smaller ones are going to apply more, and then we'll pull out some I think, fairly cool and applicable other small sort of fifth pocket size knives. That's what I call these. But if you live in a place and you need under 2 inches, maybe it's not a fifth pocket for you. But anyway, this is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. We have the Spyderco Para 3 Lightweight. Happens to be the Spy 27 one. That's why it's a different color. And this has custom scales. So I always have to explain that because people ask why it's different. And I got these from Sharp Dressed Knives. I know you're going to ask. Everybody asked me. Because they are very pretty. Next up, we will pull out your full-size Benchmade Griptilian. It's obviously way smaller than that. And your full-size bug out. I should have had the mini bug out here, but I don't. I apologize for that. And actually, you know, when we're done here, I'm gonna pause it and cut away, and I'll get the mini bug out. But before we get to the mini bug out, let's do the Knives Banter. It's just a little bit smaller than the Banter. And one of my personal favorite fifth pocket knives, the Spyderco Lil Native. And we'll put these away, and as promised, I have turned my body 180 degrees and retrieved my this is the Benchmade Mini Bug Out. So pretty similar in size to the Mini Bug Out, maybe just a little bit shorter. This one is dyed. And now, the knife that we're going to talk a lot more about here shortly, but we'll kind of run through this again really quickly. This is the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop. This has to be the carbon fiber one. These are all out of stock at the moment. But I don't know if they're coming back again or not. And this carbon fiber one, I'm pretty sure, is not coming back. They usually just do one and done runs of these carbon fibers, so I wouldn't expect to see that again. You can see very, very similar in size to that. A little bit shorter and squatter than the Mini Archbishop. But again, we'll talk about that a lot more here momentarily. But with this knife, what do you get? The blade, like I said, D2 steel, and Civivi's D2 is pretty darn good. The usual, very thin behind the edge. You'll come about 16, 17 thousandths for this, which with that thin blade stock, it is an excellent, excellent slicer. The tip on it is not robust, but I would not call it dainty either. It's pretty darn good, I do have to say, for a knife this size. Slices really, really well. You do lose some, this is a small knife, and you do lose some cutting edge with that forward finger choil, but on a knife this small, I'm willing to sacrifice that. I'd rather have the forward choil, honestly. As far as the ergonomics go, it's typical Ferrum Forge. They're always really good, and this is absolutely no exception. It's really good. You can kind of feel the clip on this one, which we'll talk about more later. But other than that, it's pretty great. I do like the contoured G10. You can't feel these proud liners at all. They don't bother me a bit. It's just that pocket clip I can kind of feel just a little bit. But other than that, jimping's in a very good place. This isn't like the grippiest G10 in the world, which does make it carry better. I do have to say that. So, as far as getting out of the pocket, but ergonomics are pretty darn good. I mentioned the carry earlier, so let's get to that. Here's a Yale Levi's. Yeah, slides in and out very well. You get a little bit sticking out just because the nature of the shape of the handle, but it's not dramatic at all. And yeah, there's a little bit of flipper tab sticking out, but this isn't a really big knife, so it's not that big of a deal. The only thing I notice is where the jimping is in the flipper tab. You do feel it, when your hand slides past it just a little bit. Again, not the end of the world, but you do notice it, and it does fit very, very well, as I said, in that fifth pocket of almost any pair of jeans. Fits extremely well there. There's still even room left. So yeah, a very good little fifth pocket knife. Absolutely, for sure. As far as the action goes, it's just, I hate just saying it this way, but it's a Civivi. It's good. I mean, they're all good. They're all pretty excellent. It is not completely drop shutty because it is just a tiny little knife. That's just physics. There's not enough weight to get it going. You can Spidey flick it. I'm failing at it horribly right now, but you absolutely can Spidey flick it. There we go. You can thumb flick it, all those kind of things. I've done nothing to this. I've not adjusted it a tiny little bit, so I'm sure if I adjusted it and, lubed it up and cleaned it, it would probably be even better. But it's pretty darn good as it is out of the box. I have zero complaints at all with the action on it, especially for a small knife like this. It's kind of fidgety. Sometimes if your big primary knife isn't that fidgety, isn't that fun to play with, sometimes it's kind of cool to have a fifth pocket knife that's kind of fidgety, and I think this will fit the boxes. Now let's bring out its sibling and competitor. This is the Ferrum Forge Mini Archbishop. These are out of stock right now. I assume they're coming back, but I assume this carbon one isn't coming back. They would be G10. As you can see, definitely the same, the same designer. There's no way you would ever confuse that is not a Ferrum Forge. They both look exactly the same. You are looking at a little bit thicker a little bit more expensive, I'm sorry. On the Ferrum Forge, you're looking at $68 versus $52.70 when these come back in stock. But you do get a few nice little details. For me, one of them is it's Ferrum Forge. Even though it's made by the same company, you're buying it from Ferrum Forge, which is kind of cool. They make a lot of really expensive knives, so it's kind of neat that it says Ferrum Forge on it instead of Civivi. There is a value in that. It is undeniable. You are getting this really cool pivot, their little captive pivot with the Ferrum Forge logo. I think that's very, very cool. It is a slightly thinner handle. The pocket clip is a little bit better, I will say. I don't, ergonomically, I would call them a tie if this was a battle to the death. I'm not going to do the whole battle to the death thing, but I like the contour of this one better, but the pocket clip disappears a lot more on the Mini Arch. So there's that. This is 9CR18 MOV steel, almost the exact same thickness behind the edge, both about 16, 17 thousandths, both very, very slicey blades. You can see the blade shape is slightly different. Blade stock thickness is the same, but I don't know. It just depends on which steel you want. I like 9CR better, but that's just me. It's easy to sharpen. And I think it holds an edge perfectly acceptably well. You will see you get a little bit more cutting edge on the Mini Arch for sure. Carry-wise, they're exactly the same. It's going to be that little. They're both going to have that same little kick at the end of the handle sticking out. But other than that, pretty much the same. So which one would I choose? It would be a coin toss situation right now. Obviously, the Odium, because you can get them. And if you get one, don't feel like you're missing out on anything with the Mini Arch. If this was a true battle to the death, I'd call this a tie. Because yeah, this is a little cheaper, but there are a few things that are just a little bit nicer on the Mini Arch. And for my hands, I like the ergos a little bit better on the Mini Arch, but I think a lot of people will prefer the ergos on this because it has contoured scales, which are always a nice touch. So that's what my battle to the death summary would be if I did one on these. But getting back to the Odium, what this video is about. Yeah, it's a good knife. Definitely do recommend it. 5270, really good value. Civivis are always very nicely finished. You get a nice pouch and all that stuff. You don't get that with the mini arch, by the way. I forgot to include that. Yeah, you don't get that stuff with the mini arch. You don't get the pouch and all the cool stuff. So there's that. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.